So NHS staff are set to get a pay rise. Whoopee. Here's the catch. It's a 1% pay rise. It's the equivalent, in real terms, it's the equivalent of £3.50 a week. And everybody who voted Conservative in the last election, this is your fault. Everybody who enabled Jeremy Corbyn to be smeared for the last 5 years until he was gone, until we ended up with Keith Starmer, a man who represents no substantial change. In fact, a man who is to the right of the Tories when it comes to corporation tax. You did this because we had, for the first time in many decades, a candidate for Prime Minister who was actually progressive, who actually represented a change, a real change in the way that the system that we live in is run. And we allowed the billionaires, the corporations, the CEOs, the Conservative Party donors and the Conservative Party bosses to smear this man, call him an anti-Semite because he shared something on Twitter or on Facebook even, to call him a terrorist sympathiser because he met people that weren't very savoury. Newsflash, the whole point of politics is to meet people who aren't savoury, is to come to some kind of middle ground, some kind of understanding, and that improves people's lives. That is the point. That is what politics is all about. So to say he met somebody that we didn't like, you could apply that to any politician and call them a terrorist sympathiser. So anybody who allowed Keir Starmer to ascend to power, this is your fault. You did this. Don't pretend you didn't. You did this. Don't hide behind your claps and your sycophantic drivel about how lovely and brilliant the NHS staff have been during a pandemic. This is your fault. And you've got two choices now. You can either continue to fall into your own sort of self-denial and pretend that it's not your fault, or you can accept that it is your fault, and next time, in the next election, make better choices. Vote for the guy who wants to increase the NHS pay. Vote for the guy who waves around live on air documentation evidence that the NHS is under threat from privatisation. Vote for the guy who wants to make a difference to real working class lives. Vote for the guy who wants to change things, because Keir Starmer is no change. His deputy leader, Angela Rayner, is no change, and they're both on Twitter right now bleating about how pathetic this 1% pay rise is. And they're right. But Angela Rayner claimed £200 for a personalised set of AirPods at our expense. She also claimed all the rent, the bills, the utility costs for a second home at our expense. They're all pigs with the same kind of snouts in the same trough. Labour and the Conservatives. And how did this happen? How did we end up back in 2007? Because we allowed it. We allowed the media to tell us Jeremy Corbyn is an anti-Semite. He's a terrorist sympathiser. He's a communist, which in fact he isn't. Anybody who's read communist literature, Marx, even skim Reddit knows that Jeremy Corbyn is not a fucking communist. He's a democratic socialist. So yeah, you did this. We did this. We allowed this to happen, and now we've allowed Keir Starmer to come into the Labour Party, the party that was set up by people who were working class and was meant to represent working class people. We allowed him to come into this leadership of this party, and he is purging left-wing progressive people from the party, left, right and centre. He has stopped a socialist black woman in Liverpool running for Mayor of London, even though she was one of the favourites for the position. That man is the racist. So if you're crying about a 1% pay rise, if you're upset, if you're angry, if you're indignant, you're right to be. But if you're also a Tory voter, if you're also somebody who didn't like Jeremy Corbyn, it's your fucking fault.